It was supposed to be a routine part of the application process, just another box to tick on the way to securing a new job at a prestigious marketing firm. The medical tests were standard, a mere formality, I thought as I sat in the sterile, white room waiting for the results. When the doctor returned, his face was grave, a stark contrast to the nonchalant farewell I had expected. "Mr. Jacobs," he began, avoiding my gaze, "your tests have come back, and I'm afraid there's something serious we need to discuss." My heart plummeted. "What is it?" I asked, a sense of dread settling over me. "You've tested positive for HIV." The room spun. "That's impossible," I stammered, my voice barely a whisper. "I've been faithful. There must be some mistake." With a sympathetic nod, the doctor suggested a retest, but deep down, I knew the result would be the same. I left the clinic in a daze, my mind reeling with the impossibility of it all. How could this have happened? I rushed home, desperate for the comfort of my wife, Ella. She had always been my rock, the steady hand in my turbulent world. But as I flung open the door, the scene before me shattered everything I believed about our life together. Ella was there, but she wasn't alone. The laughter I heard wasn't her usual joyous chime, but something else, something secretive. And there, in what was once our sanctuary, she was entwined with another man, oblivious to my entrance. The sight fueled a wildfire of rage within me. "Congratulations, kid," I shouted, my voice laced with venom as I stared at the interloper, "now you have HIV too." They sprang apart, Ella's eyes wide with shock and fear, her lover scrambling to cover himself. "Jake, You what?" I cut her off, my voice rising. "You cheated on me, Ella. You betrayed me." Her face crumbled, the realization of the consequences dawning on her as well. "Jake, I'm so sorry," she sobbed, her words tumbling out in a frantic, breathless stream. "I never meant for this to happen." But her apologies couldn't unmake the truth. The damage was done, and with it, the life I had known was over. In that moment, something cold and hard settled in my chest. I was beyond hurt, I was obliterated. I didn't wait for her explanations. I didn't need to hear the lies or the justifications. The trust we had built over years was gone in an instant. I turned on my heel and left, slamming the door behind me. The following days were a blur of lawyers and harsh words, each meeting with Ella colder and more calculated than the last. My heartbreak morphed into anger, and anger into a resolve of ice. I was determined to make her pay for the destruction of our marriage. The divorce proceedings were swift and ruthless. By the end, there was nothing left of the love we once shared. As I signed the last of the papers, my lawyer gave me a solemn nod. "It's done, Mr. Jacobs." Yes, it was done. I walked out of the office a free man, but at what cost? The life I had known was over, and in its place was a void filled with unanswered questions and the shadow of betrayal. Ella and I would never see each other again. As I stepped into the sunlit street, the weight of my new reality settled upon my shoulders. The journey ahead was mine alone, a path forged by betrayal but destined for new beginnings. This was not the end of my story, but the harsh beginning of something new. The crisp morning air bites at my cheeks as I make my way down the bustling streets of downtown, a coffee in hand and a new purpose lighting my steps. The city seems indifferent to my turmoil, its rhythm unaltered. I head to a support group meeting, a suggestion by my therapist to help process the aftermath of my diagnosis and divorce. As I push open the door to the community center, a murmur of conversation washes over me. The room is filled with faces, some marked with the same weariness that I feel, others with a forced cheeriness. I find a seat in the back, my presence barely noticed. A woman at the front calls the meeting to order. She's in her 40s, with an air of calm authority. "Welcome, everyone. Today, we have a new member. Jake, would you like to introduce yourself?" I stand, feeling a dozen sympathetic gazes on me. "Hi, I'm Jake. It's my first time here." Nods and murmurs of welcome follow, and I sink back into my seat, grateful when the focus shifts away from me. The meeting unfolds, stories of betrayal and coping mechanisms shared. I listen, finding strange comfort in the shared pain. After the session, a man approaches me. He's slightly older, with a rugged look and a tentative smile. "Hi, Jake. I'm Mark. First meetings are always the toughest, but it gets better." "Thanks, Mark," I reply, appreciating his effort. "It's a lot to take in. You'll find a lot of support here. And hey, if you ever need to talk or throw a ball around, just give me a shout," he offers, handing me his card. I pocket the card with a nod, grateful but doubtful I'll use it. Exiting the center, I barely notice the figure leaning against the building until he steps forward. "Jake Jacobs," he asks, his tone cautious yet firm. "Yes," I answer, wary. "Who are you?" "Tom Avery. I'm a private investigator," he reveals, showing his badge briefly. "I need a word with you about your ex-wife, Ella." My interest peaks despite my reservations. "What about her?" "It's sensitive. Can we go somewhere more private?" Curiosity wins over caution, and I nod. We find a quiet corner in a nearby cafe. Tom starts without preamble once we're seated. "I've been hired by a few of Ella's other acquaintances," Tom begins, choosing his words carefully. "Turns out you weren't the only one affected by her actions. They suspect she's part of something bigger, something deliberate." I stiffen, my coffee forgotten. "Deliberate? You think she intentionally?" "We don't know for sure, which is why we need your help. Your story could be a key piece in understanding her pattern, maybe even her motives." The implications churn in my stomach. Betrayal is one thing, premeditation is another entirely. "What do you need from me?" "Just your story for now. Any details about your relationship, things she said or did that seemed off," Tom explains. The conversation stretches for over an hour as I recount my history with Ella, each detail a thorn. Tom listens intently, his notes filling page after page. "Thank you, Jake. This helps more than you can know," he says finally. "I might be in touch if we need more." As I leave the cafe, the weight of the conversation settles on me. The betrayal now seems part of a larger tapestry, one that I had unwittingly been a part of. As I walk, Mark's card burns in my pocket, and a plan begins to form. Maybe I need that game of ball after all, not just for distraction, but possibly for alliance. The city around me feels different now, charged with the potential of secrets waiting to be uncovered. I am no longer just a victim of circumstance, I am a man on a path to uncovering the truth, whatever it may be. The park is unusually quiet for a Saturday morning, the usual cacophony of children's laughter and barking dogs muted by an overcast sky. I find Mark tossing a baseball into the air, catching it with a practiced ease. He sees me and waves, a genuine smile breaking across his face. Ready to lose terribly at a simple game of catch, he teases as I approach. I chuckle, grateful for the attempt at normalcy. "You'd be surprised. I've got a pretty mean throw." We spend the next hour lobbing the ball back and forth, the rhythm of the game loosening the knots of tension in my shoulders. It feels good to move, to let go of the complexities waiting beyond these green fields. After a particularly good throw, Mark claps. "Not bad, Jake. Not bad at all. You've got a hidden talent here." I retrieve the ball, feeling a little more relaxed. "Thanks. It helps, being out here, doing something normal." Mark nods, then his expression shifts, becoming more serious. "You mentioned last time we spoke about Ella, your situation. If you ever need to talk." I cut him off, the urgency pressing. "Actually, I met someone yesterday, a private investigator. He thinks Ella might be involved in something bigger." Mark's interest peaks immediately. "Bigger how?" "He thinks she might have been deliberately infecting people." "There are others like me," I explain, watching for his reaction. Mark frowns, tossing the ball into his glove thoughtfully. "That's heavy, Jake. If there's anything I can do to help." "I might take you up on that," I say. I'm not sure what step to take next, but having someone to back me up might make a difference. "Count me in," he says without hesitation. "Whatever you need." Gratitude washes over me. "Thanks, Mark. That means a lot." We wrap up the game and head to a nearby cafe, a plan slowly forming between us. Over coffee, we discuss potential steps, gathering more information, reaching out to others affected, maybe even confronting Ella again. First, we should meet with Tom again, I suggest. He might have more information by now, or at least we could push for it. Mark agrees, pulling out his phone. I'll contact him now, see if we can set something up. As we leave the cafe, the first drops of rain begin to fall, dappling the pavement with dark spots. The air feels charged, the brewing storm mirroring the turmoil inside me. Mark puts a hand on my shoulder as we reach the shelter of a bus stop. "We'll figure this out, Jake. You're not in this alone anymore." I nod, the solidarity giving me strength. As the rain begins to pour, hiding the city under a veil of grey, I feel a resolve hardening within me. Ella's actions had shattered my world, but now, with allies at my side, I was ready to face whatever came next, ready to uncover the truth and, hopefully, find some semblance of justice. The road ahead might be fraught with challenges, but I was no longer navigating it alone. The air is tense in the dimly lit backroom of a nondescript building where Mark and I wait. The walls are lined with corkboards filled with photos and string connecting various pieces of evidence. Tom had called us here, promising revelations that would bring everything to light. The anticipation is palpable. Tom enters, his face grave. He carries a stack of files and a laptop. Setting them down, he addresses us without preamble. "Thanks for coming. I know you're both eager for answers, and today, you'll get them." Mark leans forward, his expression serious. "What have you found, Tom?" Tom opens his laptop, bringing up a complex chart. It took some digging, deeper than I anticipated. Ella wasn't working alone. She was part of a ring, a deliberate scheme to infect people with HIV. My stomach churns at the confirmation of our worst suspicions. "Why?" I manage to ask, my voice barely a whisper. "It's twisted," Tom continues, his eyes dark. "This group, they were betting on it. A sick game. Betting on who could infect the most without getting caught." The room spins around me, each word a hammer blow. "How did you find this out?" "We intercepted communications between Ella and another member. Plus, financial trails, bets placed, payouts received. It's all here." Tom slides a file across the table towards us. Mark picks it up, flipping through with growing disgust. "This is monstrous," he mutters. "There's more," Tom adds, hesitating. "We've managed to identify several of the group's members. Tomorrow, there will be arrests." "Is Ella?" My question hangs in the air, laden with a mix of hope and dread. "Yes," Tom confirms. "She's one of them. She'll be taken in." The news should bring me relief, yet it stokes the embers of anger and betrayal anew. I stand abruptly, needing to move, to think. When does this happen?" "Tomorrow morning." "We wanted you to know first," Tom says, his tone gentle. I nod, my mind racing. "I need some air," I mumble, stepping outside into the cool night. The city seems oblivious to the horrors unfolding in its shadows. I walk aimlessly, each step pounding a steady beat of mixed emotions. By the time I return, Mark is waiting outside. "Jake," he starts, "I can't imagine how hard this is for you. But it's almost over." "Is it?" I ask, my voice hollow. "It feels like it's just beginning." "How do I go on from here?" "You rebuild," Mark says simply. "Step by step. And you're not alone." His words offer a small comfort, but the real test is yet to come. The next morning dawns grey and heavy. Mark and I, alongside Tom, watch from a distance as the police raid the apartment where Ella has been staying. It's a surreal sight, the culmination of weeks of pain and investigation. Ella emerges in handcuffs, her eyes scanning the crowd until they land on me. There's a moment, a flash of something, regret, defiance. It's gone before I can decipher it. As they lead her away, something inside me shifts. The chapter of Ella is closing, a painful, poisonous part of my life that I'm ready to leave behind. I turn to Mark and Tom, my allies through this storm. Thank you, I say, my voice steady for the first time in weeks. For everything. Mark claps a hand on my shoulder, a brother in arms. What will you do now? He asks. I look back at the retreating police cars, a sense of finality washing over me. I start anew, I declare. And I make sure this never happens to anyone else. As we part ways, a light rain begins to fall, cleansing the streets with its gentle touch. I walk alone, the city sprawling before me, a maze of paths yet to be taken. The future is uncertain, a blank canvas, but I am ready to paint it with new colors, colors of healing and hope. The deception and betrayal are behind me, sealed in the past, as I step forward into a new beginning.